of course, news recently broke all over the net by Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Bruce Jenner, that he has actually decided to physically become a woman. And this has, of course, turned the spotlight onto gender identity across the world. Now, for those of you who missed it, here's a snippet of his interview with Diane Sawyer.
Are you a woman?
Yes, for all intents and purposes, I am a woman. People look at me differently. They see you as this macho male, but my heart and my soul and everything that I do in life, it is part of me. That female side is part of me. That's who I am.
Now, with us in studio to give us a better understanding of gender identity is Sbu Kezwa and Tsepo Kositau from Gender Dynamix, an organization that aims to provide support and advice to the transgender community. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having us.
Lovely. Sbu, I want to start off with you first. Having a look at this entire story and the interview that went on, it was very much covered by the international media. What are your perceptions on Bruce's decision to take on this journey in his life and transform himself into a woman?
I would say, first of all, to come out for any reason, it's an act of courage, you know. But I'm very much grateful that he did, because today we are here talking about issues of gender identity. But I would encourage that at least if the media could even pick up of stories of heroes that we live with on daily basis, not only people who are of his stature, you know.
Exactly, because I think it's important to also realize that we live in a somewhat different community where our African upbringing might sometimes lead to people's stereotypes or thinking that transgenderism is un-African. It's very much a Western kind of thing. So, Tsepo, what would you say to someone who believes this?
It's very true, because for the most part, more especially if you're looking at how the story of Bruce Jenner has been covered, for the most people who do not believe in Africans being able to actually be born different to your regular folk who is born male-bodied, he's a man, female-bodied, that's a woman.
Yes.
That is a norm that most people are raised to believe is actually the truth and its a fact. And as such, I think we need to understand that Africans are not Africans because we look the same. They're Africans because they are born in Africa and they're born of this particular heritage that we're born into. So many trans people share the same kind of culture that any other person who is either born male-bodied or female-bodied is born into. They subscribe to the same kind of religious beliefs and cultural norms that any other person believes in. So I would not necessarily want to entertain any thought about transgenderism being an-African, because it dates way long into our history as African people. Gender variance itself is not a new phenomenon within our communities. Many of our own traditional cultures would tell you of people who were born different in terms of the manner in which they express themselves, but having been born with what a person on the ground would call a normal body. So it's not necessarily an-African, it's just that as Africans we do not want to talk more about these issues and their existence within our history. And that is what we do as Gender Dynamics, to discuss these kind of issues and to say that they're not necessarily new.
And I guess a large part of the journey to coming to, I guess, a possible solution where we all understand is about that, you know, trying to encourage that kind of conversation where we begin to understand. So, Sbu, give us an insight into some of the major challenges of being a transgendered individual, perhaps some of the misconceptions that some of us as South Africans might have.
You know, one, at this point in time, given that it's a Freedom Month, would expect that at least South Africans understand what freedom means, you know. So, but at this point in time, I questioned, what does freedom mean if people are not free to choose their gender? What does freedom, you know, all the promises of the Constitution are not a lived reality for many people. For instance, the issue of access to health is a big thing for transgender people, as we have many hospitals who are supposed to be providing these services, hormonal therapy, surgeries, doing mental health, but those services are not available. Young kids, young transgender kids are being excluded at school, either other learners are perpetrators of bullying, or even teachers are supportive of such bullying to say, you are a boy, behave like a boy. So those are some of the issues. The issue of legal recognition. You know, in South Africa, we have a law called Act 49 of 2003, the Alteration of Sex Status and Sex Description Law. And that law allows people that as you were born male, if you change your sex, like Bruce Jenner did, you can apply with Department of Home Affairs to change your sex in the birth registry. But that law is not, South Africans do not apply it. You know, the Home
because
Affairs,
of the lack of knowledge of it?
Lack of knowledge, prejudice, discrimination, all it comes, it manifests in different levels.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, I guess it's very important then, you who are outspoken people about transgenderism, what would you say to individuals out there who perhaps are too scared to speak out about who they really are?
Okay, I think having been born transsexual myself and having undergone my reassignment to get into where I am, and being female, having been born male-bodied, I think I stand to be firm in saying that you are normal. Yeah. Normal is not something that Katleho or Sbu or Taipa can say we feel the same about it. Yeah. It's what is actually for you, tailored for you. And as such, I don't think people who still maybe are questioning that gender should feel as if they stand alone or they're the only ones that exist out there, and that this is the end of the journey for them, and this is what life is going to be, a constant struggle. There are many things and tools and resources that are available out there, one being Gender Dynamix itself, and many other organizations within the country and even in the continent that can be able to assist one to be able to seek any form of intervention that they're looking for, whether you would want to undergo any form of reassignment such as Boots Jenner or with myself, given that there are available resources for that, and it's a matter of speaking to somebody so as to be able to access these particular resources. But I'd say really being born transgender or transsexual is not necessarily the end of one's journey or the determinant of how your life is going to be.
And indeed, this is something that we could talk about for hours and hours on end, because there's still such a divide in terms of the understanding of the community. But thank you very much for coming in and sharing your insights with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And I think it's important that we take into cognizance the fact that transgender people are no different from anyone else out there. In fact, to find out more information or to support programs connected to the transgender community, go to www.genderdynamix.org.za. Right now, let's find out what else is coming. Ewan?